All right, let's continue our analysis here. So yeah, let me delete this one. Okay, so last time we plotted this time series graph here, right, the line chart. And because we had both domestic, international, and total, we also put a filter here, another filter for the country because we have so many countries. Now, let's continue. So, series. Okay, series is basically this, right? So it shows us whether we are going to. I mean, it has three categories: domestic, international, and total. So now I'll take series and put it into legend. Okay, all right. And currently not much changed because in the filter I'm only allowing it to draw total. So let's get rid of that. Interesting, the domestic number is quite low. That's very interesting. Yeah, so this is okay. This is for Germany. So apparently, right, we only selected Germany there. Apparently, there is not many domestic flights happening there. That's what we can tell from this. So now the good. So what I want to do is basically I don't want to see the total flights because it's a total of these two. I want to see only domestic and international. You see, this is very interesting. The international flights dominate domestic by a large value there. So yeah, so right now the aggregation, if you pay attention to it, right? So what happens here? Let's try to understand that correctly. So first of all, the data is only from Germany. So within the table there, it will find Germany. Okay, let me see if I can use this one. All right, yep. It'll find Germany right there. And then within Germany now, right, there is the domestic flights, there is international flights, and then there's total flights. So the grouping by is happening based on the country. Well, sorry, let me correct that. The filtering is happening based on the country, right? Only Germany, only those rows that belong to Germany are taken into account. And then it groups by, right? The different flight types, whether it's domestic, international, or the total of these two. And then within that category, it will sum these values for each month in this case, right? Why is it each month? Because we are at the monthly level, right? You see there, it's month by month. If you move your mouse from left to right, you can clearly see, let's focus in this area, right? You can clearly see that's the month of August there, right? And then if you go next, we are going to be in September, and then October, November, and so on. So basically, we still also consider the year information too, because we have done this expansion, this one. We have expanded into the next level. So the grouping by happens based on the year and the month, and the flight type in this case. Okay, so it is domestic and international. And within those categories, it will sum the values, right? If you look here, so you see these values here is monthly data. Okay, so the day information here is not important at all. It's the monthly data, so July, June, May, you see those months there. Okay, so that's the aggregation happening here. Okay, so this is the total among all the countries right now. For example, if you look at United States, right? United States has much more domestic flights compared to international. This pattern though is very interesting too. You see, it's quite low in February, goes very high in July, and then goes down towards the end of the year again. And then the patterns repeat itself. This is kind of very similar in both international And domestic cases, of course, this period is COVID, so don't really don't pay much attention to this. It's quite complicated there. So United States travel pattern is quite different than Germany. Let's take a look at the United Kingdom. Yeah, like European countries are small, right, in general, at least compared to United States, let's say. So there's not many domestic flights happening. When there's a flight happening in those countries, it's between the countries, so it's international most of the time. So let's check France. Yeah, France is a bit more domestic flights there, right? So I think like I would assume the south side there by the Mediterranean and so on is popular destinations, probably from the different parts of France as well. Brazil, let's check Brazil. Okay, Brazil has definitely a lot of domestic flights. Brazil is a very big country. Makes sense. Australia, let's check that. So there's both domestic and international flights at a high number there. Canada, I will assume the same kind of thing happening. Yep. Chile, yeah, there is. It's a very, if you look at the map of Chile, it's a very long country kind of. Egypt. Okay, not many domestic flights happening there. Netherlands, I would assume. I mean, I don't like. Yeah, domestic flight is super super low. I mean, Netherlands is such a small country with a very good public transport and the train network there. So basically, domestic travel there is by train mostly. If it is not done by car, people will use the train there. That's for sure. Let's take a look at Turkey there. Yeah, there is some domestic flights there, definitely, but the majority of the flights are international. Okay, so you see here basically this way we can understand that, at what aggregation are we looking at, right? So you need to understand both at what expansion level you are, so the granularity of your data, and then in this case we're also filtering by country first. Now, for example, let's take two countries, France and Germany. Now, when you do this, the lines you see here, okay, is the total of France and Germany for international, the orange one, and the blue one is for the domestic flights. So it takes into account both France and Germany. Okay, the aggregation level is at the monthly data again. For two countries, France and Germany, and the orange one is international and blue one is domestic there. Okay. So by the way, if you only want a single to be selected, single country, then you can select this one. If you unclick that, then, by clicking several countries, you can add them up like this. Okay. All right. So now here under the legend, right, we have the series, so whether it's international or domestic, and we only selected here international and domestic. Good. So if I drag this country into this legend, okay, then for each line will now have a different color based on the country they are from, right? And now there's too many colors, so it doesn't look good. So for example, if I now select Germany, okay, and yeah, let's just stay with Germany, for example. So why do I see a single line? Okay, well, that's because of this legend here. Okay, I put the coloring to be based on the country. Okay, so now it doesn't distinguish between domestic and international flights. This line is the total of domestic and international flight. Okay, because in the filter here I wanted to see domestic and international, but I don't see two lines because the two lines was based on the color, and now I just color based on the country, and I selected Germany. So this line is the sum of domestic plus international in that month. For example, this 2017 August is in that month of 2017 of August. Total international and domestic flights happening in Germany was 24 1,889 million passenger kilometers. Okay, so that's what this means. And I can add more countries here, for example, France and Netherlands, right? This is the total. This line is the total. Now, let's verify that. If I unclick these two and just click total, you should still see these lines at the same location. So kind of make a picture. This is 25,000, this is 10,000. Germany here, France here, and then Netherlands at the bottom there. I'll just click this. Okay, unclick this. You see, they stayed at the same location there. Because what was happening before, it's adding these two lines. That's it. I mean, adding both domestic and international, and then having a one line only for the country. Okay, so this is it for now. We will continue looking into filters a bit more next time.